AskReddit by storyteller boy. Men who are embarrassed buying feminine hygiene products for family members. Exactly what are you worried other people are thinking? I remember being in awe at my dad when he bought me pads and just openly carried them around without a care in the world. Growing up I was influenced to be ashamed and keep my period a secret, but then that one moment witnessing my dad not give a fuck was the turning point where I was like, wait, my period is completely normal to have, why am I embarrassed by it? Yep. I started my period in the early 2000s and my dad has never once been ashamed to pick up any type of feminine hygiene product. He was buying my mom's tampons years before we were even born. I credit him with my healthy mindset towards my own period and others too. Never understood why this was a thing. Are men afraid the cashier will think hahaha, this guy has a significant other, family member, or close friend that they care about? How embarrassing. Haha, this guy sticks tampons into his butthole then puts it in the freezer and then eats his own ass popsicles. Cashier probably. As a guy I never understood the embarrassment. Like haw. You know a woman. Boys, is it gay to like woman now? Women are gay, they sleep with men. There was a study a while ago in which some men refused to touch a clean tampon, because just the idea of it was gross to them. I think that's what's going on here. It's not that they think people will laugh at them for having a woman in their life they care about, it's that, to them, tampons are gross and people will see them with the gross thing. In 7th grade, there was an unopened pad left on the seat from the previous class period. The boy who sat in that seat made the biggest deal out of it. He picked it up like he'd pick up a shirt covered in puke or something. Someone please come up with a better example. He just pinched the very top of the package and threw it across the room while screaming. Everyone was laughing but I spoke up and told him he was being stupid. The female teacher yelled at me. It never bothered me in the least, as long as I was told exactly what to get. A few times I did notice that younger women were uncomfortable with me on that aisle with them and would walk away until I was done. My husband is like this. He has no problem buying them but asks for a picture of the package so he can get the right thing. I'm particular about brand and he just doesn't want to get it wrong. In the olden days when I was growing up, 1950s 1960s, women were made to feel embarrassed. Advertisements for products were really vague and rife with euphemisms. It was like the whole menstruation process was so shameful and embarrassing that girls didn't even want brothers or dads to know they started. It was gross. My sister is quite a bit younger and things were better for her. I remember once overhearing her telling our dad that she had cramps and I almost fainted. She looked at me like I was insane and said, "He has a wife and 2 daughters. Don't you ever talk to him about it?" Things have improved a lot but I'm wondering if men still somehow get that weird mentality passed down from older guys or something. Capital I. Married a guy with several older sisters and he's never had an issue. You don't have to go that far back. There was a poster here just a few days ago that called her 20-something boyfriend disgusting for coaching his little sister, that he has custody of, through her first period. My girlfriend ordered some tampons from Instacart and the shopper for some reason just grabbed mushrooms as a substitute for tampons. To this day we always joke about her needing to buy mushrooms when she has her period. Pretty frequently in Instacart FB groups and the Instacart subreddit, I'll see stories of customers who have ordered feminine hygiene products and end up with a male shopper who either A. substitutes them for something insane like Q-tips or mushrooms, B. just refunds them without contacting the customer when for sure it or a product similar enough is in stock, or C. reaches out to berate the customer for daring to do something so inappropriate as order feminine hygiene products because God forbid this dumb little twat male shopper who is getting paid to be a personal shopper might be seen buying tampons or whatever. It's common enough that I'm genuinely disappointed to see a bunch of never been a problem for me because I'm cool and normal when I really actually want to know what the complete hell is wrong with these Ike shopper dudes who have the audacity to refund these items or worse, actually berate their customers for buying normal merchandise. When I was younger I was worried that people would think they were for me, but then at one point I realized that I don't give a fuck about others' opinions. Especially strangers. I went to boarding school and people were embarrassed to buy condoms. Reselling condoms was my literal hustle. Sold each unit for $10. Those were the days and it paid for my first year of college. Yet nobody bats an eye at toilet paper. That's not even true though. I've heard so many people, not even just men, embarrassed to buy a large amount of toilet paper. The cashier is not gonna assume you're using this all today. Legend has it that a man's nuts will actually fall off from too much exposure to feminine products. I've seen it with my own eyes. That's good because mine haven't dropped yet. I think this is something everyone has been conditioned to be embarrassed about from sitcoms. I have never cared about buying products for my wife, it's just a natural function of her body. For my brothers it was never about embarrassment. They would complain along the lines of, I've never asked my wife to get my cologne, shaving cream or razors. Why isn't she able to maintain her own supply of hygiene products? Why is this being outsourced to me? Usually said while one of them was driving to the store to buy their wife tampons. My girlfriend sent me round to buy her some tights once from the local shop and the girl behind the counter mocked me. This was 30 years ago in a small Irish town and I'm sure it's changed. She obviously couldn't, and wouldn't, find a boyfriend who cared enough to do it for her. I'm a gal, but I recall my dad really encouraging me to go in to buy my femcare stuff on my own. 11 years old first period, he always gave me way too much, like $60 a month for femcare. I maybe needed $15 minus $20. So I made out like a bandit, which was awesome because I could buy hella gel pens. He was a single dad. I got most of my femcare mentoring from camp counselors and intuition, and I am genuinely glad he let me take care of it independently. I recall him saying, I don't know what you need, and there's too many options. I'll be parked here reading, and that was a perfect scenario for us both because I was a little embarrassed. And I was basically getting an additional allowance so I couldn't let him see actual prices. Betcha he was well aware he was giving you too much, given your mention of your own embarrassment, although maybe not quite how much too much, lol. Hella gel pens forever, though. They're gonna think I piss on the tampons, freeze them, stick them in my ass and slowly let them defrost while I live stream it all to live audience of 0. My ex refused to buy me pads. I was sick with the flu once and had to order them on shipped because he absolutely would not buy them. He said they were gross. You glad you ridded yourself of that gross ex? Never felt that, but I have a funny story. First time my now wife spent time at my home, she unexpectedly needed pads on Sunday, so the only open place was a supermarket in the next town. Just 15 minutes drive. I take the shorter road in the forest and a summer storm hits in that moment. I'm almost out of the forest but the road is blocked by a fallen tree. I turn back and I find another tree fallen on the street. I kind of freak out, but it was small and I didn't want to be there waiting for the next tree to fall on my car. So I move it in order to pass, but just 1 kilometer later a bigger tree is blocking completely the other direction too. Nothing to do except waiting for the fire department to come. Luckily I'm not alone, so other drivers call them. They come, I help them transporting the chunks they cut with the chainsaw, and when the road is free I can reach the supermarket. So I'm there at T. Unsung hero. It's actually hard to find the correct ones the first few times. The first time you buy a pack of tampons you have about as much experience as a teenager. It's probably the same as asking someone to buy me some razor blades. I think Gillette sell about 6 types of razor blades that are incompatible. And then manufacturers decide to change the packaging and you're back to start. That I'm buying the wrong ones and look like a fucking idiot. Just keep in mind that no one else in the store will know if it's the wrong ones, only the person you know that you're getting them for will just have her send a picture of what she needs. I used to work at a grocery store. This guy once came up to me and asked for help finding pads. He proceeded to tell me in detail about his apparently leaking hemorrhoids that required him to use the pads. So, you don't have to give any reason for buying them, please don't traumatize me. This question assumes it's a rational choice on their part. For many, it's an irrational response to socialized shame. They can't tell you exactly why. They may try to explain it after the fact, but for many we are taught that anything specifically female, whether about menstruation, body hair, or even sexuality, is shameful. They are just living that shame in that moment. Never minded buying. I just prefer to be told the product, brand and quantity beforehand. There's nothing to be ashamed of. There's just the regular misogynistic stuff about how they'll be perceived as less of a man because he's whipped and buying his wife her hygiene products. Or that regular body functions are dirty in some way and are ashamed about even acknowledging that it happens. Depending on where you live, transphobia is a huge thing. Not saying the person buying the product is trans, just that the threat of getting hurt because someone might perceive the person buying is trans is a problem in some areas. Men supposed to be providers, but if man provides for his wife he's whipped. Toxic masculinity has stupidly impossible standards. I'm worried that if I touch anything of the sorts, a penis will appear in my rectum. Even worse, I might like it. When I had COVID, I asked my boyfriend to pick up pads for me on a store run. I sort of apologized for having him do it and he responded, "I don't give a fuck, I'll tell them they're for my bleeding vagina." That I'm secretly bleeding from my butthole. But like, yeah, that can and has happened due to surgeries for people. Hardly anyone would assume that, and if you told someone, they'd approach it from a place of care and worry. Because seriously, I'd probably ask, "You've gone to a doctor, right? This is expected, right? Do you need anything?"